right, as it is Corpus Christi Sunday, we need to talk about the body and blood of Jesus. I could talk about that all day and all night, obviously. Any priest could. So in the interest of finding something we can talk about in under 10 minutes, let's focus on the absolute self-giving of Jesus in the Eucharist of his body and blood. Because you see, there's one thing a priest has to deal with a certain amount of familiarity. Father, is it true that Catholics are cannibals? We have to answer that question a lot. For people that don't understand our faith, that is a very common question. Don't worry, the answer is no. We're not consuming raw human flesh or anything like that. In fact, if you think about it, what we're doing is actually the exact opposite of that. We're not consuming humanity. We're having communion with divinity. Because you see, when an actual act of cannibalism happens in one society or another, it's always about taking that life into yourself. The consumer of flesh is making that choice, and presumably for their own benefit or gain somehow. And that's a horrible idea. That's a horrible thought. That is grotesque and wrong. It's always wrong. It always will be wrong. But again, I don't want you to worry, because that is not what happens in church. It is the opposite of that. We're not like a bunch of lions gorging on Christ like a gazelle. What's really happening is Christ is feeding us in a way that we cannot feed ourselves. So it's more like a mama bird, feeding her chicks in the nest. That is a better analogy than the lion thing. So in that case, you might be thinking, well, if that's the case, then why is it the body and blood of Jesus? Why can't we just say that Eucharist is the food of Jesus? Because wouldn't that be nice and politically correct? And the answer to that is, food isn't close enough. The body and blood of Jesus is more intimate than food, because you can share a meal with the person you love the most. But you can also share a meal with a perfect stranger. When Christ gives us his body and blood, he's giving us himself. And I mean his whole self, his entire self. Not an object in his possession, not a part of himself, his whole being. All of Christ is in every single host and in every little sip from the chalice. That's why it's the body and blood of Christ. It is not cannibalism, it's Jesus freely giving us himself and everything he's capable of giving. He's not holding anything back. So again, it's all about receiving Christ and all that he has to offer. So on that note, I want you to imagine something with me. Go ahead and close your eyes. And don't fall asleep or anything, but close your eyes, it's fine. I always have to say that. And I want you to picture someone real who you care about in life. Okay, you could be your husband or wife, your child, your parent, best friend, closest coworker, all that counts. So when you're picturing that person, I want you to picture something else. I want you to picture something of yourself that you can share. Maybe it's money or a cherished object. Maybe it's your time and energy. Or maybe it's something more personal. Maybe it's a secret that you wouldn't share with just anybody. All right, so you're thinking of those two things, a person and a thing you could share. I want you to imagine what it feels like to give that thing to that person of your own free will. You want them to have it. You want to share that thing with that person. How does that feel? Hopefully it feels pretty good. because we want to do things for people that we care about. We want to share ourselves with our loved ones. That's natural. That's good. Keep your eyes closed. Got one more thing for you to imagine. Now imagine how it feels if that person took that thing from you against your will. That feels different, doesn't it? If you're anything like me, you're probably feeling anger, resentment, and betrayal. You can open your eyes, by the way. See, there's a huge difference there, isn't it? I mean, even something as basic as money. You know, hey, Jim, it's fine. Here's $50. I know you need it. Don't worry about it. That's what friends are for. But if I had $50, I don't need it, it's extra, I was going to give it away anyway, I would be furious if someone just took it out of my wallet when I wasn't looking. Even if I didn't need the money. It's the violation of someone taking something from me. And the idea of taking ideas or thoughts from people against their will, oh, that's horrible. Like instead of sharing a secret with someone, they swiped your phone while you were in the bathroom and read a bunch of your emails, and that's how they found out. Nobody likes that. So the lesson here is pretty basic, I hope. There is a vast gulf of difference between giving someone something and taking something from someone. Those are very different things. When it comes to the Eucharist, the body and blood of Jesus, we are not taking anything. Okay, this is my piece of Jesus. I'm going to take it and I'm going to eat it, and I'll get my share of Jesus' power because it's mine. Gimme. No, that is wrong. It is communion. It is Jesus giving us his very spirit, his very essence, directly to us, freely given because he loves us all. So it is not something for us to take for granted. It is not something for us to take as if it was an object for us to possess. It's far more accurate to say that when we receive Christ, we are becoming more like him. We're welcoming him into our soul whenever we receive communion. That is the real purpose of the Eucharist. Become more like Christ as we welcome him into our souls. And it is easier to remember that part of the Eucharist if you can only understand that we're not taking so much as receiving communion. We are receiving the very gift of Christ himself. And it is a free gift from someone who loves us beyond all telling.